Hello everyone, my name is Craig Merriweather. I'm the author of the Depression 180 program and the Mind Mastery Blueprint, as well as a featured author in Pearls of Wisdom, 30 Inspirational Ideas to Live Your Best Life Now, which features Jack Canfield and Marcy Shimoff, best-selling author of Happy for No Reason, and Janet and Chris Atwood, the authors of the best-selling Passion Test, and a bunch of other really great, wonderful authors. And I'm doing this video series called The 4 Real Causes of Depression. This is something that I struggled with in my life, and I got to a point in my life where I couldn't handle the misery anymore. I hit rock bottom. And there's a saying that when a person has struggled enough, then they'll make the changes to their life that they need. And I had suffered enough, and I wanted out, not just for myself, but for my wife and my son. And so I started making the changes. I started doing the research, and I had a couple problems when I started out. I didn't have any money, and I didn't have any health insurance. And so I kind of had to do this on my own. I had to really become a self-help expert. And so I spent years figuring out what depression is, what's going on in the brain, what antidepressants are doing to the brain. And as I was compiling all this research, I found that there are actual scientifically proven methods of getting out of depression that don't involve medication. And I'm going to share those with you. So I'm going to share all this information that I've learned. When I got out of depression, I started talking to people, and then I started being invited to do these seminars and these presentations about depression. I've been going around the country doing these presentations to whoever wants to hear this information, and someone said, why don't you do a video and put it up on YouTube? So that's what I'm doing today. And it's not going to be fancy. I just thought, why don't I just share this information, talk to you in this video. So there's not going to be fancy editing, or I don't have a green screen behind me. I'm not going to do any animation or anything like that. I'm just going to talk straight. I'll be using my flip chart here, and maybe I'll put up some title cards and things like that. I just want to talk straight exactly what I've learned about depression. And before we get started though, I wanted to bring up a point that was difficult for me when I was going through depression, and it was that sense that I was alone, that I was the only one that felt like this, I was the only one that was going through this. And if that's the case for you, let me reassure you that that is not the case. You are not alone. Many people struggle with this. In fact, the World Health Organization estimates that 15% of this planet's population struggles with depression. That's over 1 billion people. In the United States, about 30 million American adults struggle with depression. And you throw in teenagers and children, and it gets up to be about 10–12% of the population of the United States. So you are not alone. In fact, you have really great company. Mohandas Gandhi, the Mahatma, the great soul, the person who led his country of India from British rule using nonviolent techniques and methods, he struggled with depression. In fact, very severely the last 2 years of his life. Martin Luther King struggled with depression, Mother Teresa, Mozart, Michelangelo, J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, Bruce Springsteen, Oprah Winfrey. We're in really good company. So please don't feel alone. There are a lot of people out there who struggle with this, and there's a lot of people out there who can help, and I hope this video is going to help as well. I'm going to go through a lot of information. I hope this isn't information overload for you, but I want to get all the information out to you that I can. I don't want these videos to be too long, so I'm kind of going to go fast and furious with it. And I tell you what, at the end of this series, if you want to go deeper and further into this information, I'll show you a way in which you can do that. Now, occasionally you're going to see me looking over here, and that's because this is where my bullet points are to help me keep me on track, so I don't go off into too many tangents and these don't end up being 3-hour videos. So if I start looking over here, it's not because I don't like you, it's I'm just trying to keep on track. Now, before we get started into the 4 real causes of depression, I wanted to talk a bit about depression and genetics. Now, there's a lot of talk about there being a depression gene and a lot of research being done. And so let me go through that real quick. The theory of depression and genetics comes from the fact that depression seems to run in families. Now, whether that's genetic or just behavior modeling, you're modeling the behavior of your parents or siblings or grandfather or grandmother, that's what researchers want to find out. And so one of the ways researchers look at genetics is by looking at twins. Now, there are two types of twins. There's fraternal twins, identical twins. Fraternal twins are when two sperm fertilize two eggs, and both those eggs are able to grow and develop into little babies. Now, fraternal twins only have 50% the same genetics. So just like any brother and sister would who are born 9 months apart. Identical twins are when one sperm fertilizes one egg and then that egg splits. And both those eggs are able to grow and develop into babies. Now, identical twins have 100% the same genetics. That's why they're always the same sex, they always look alike, and they have the same blood type. Everything's the same. What researchers like to do is find twins, identical twins, who have been separated at birth. And that way it doesn't get all fuzzy with the parental behavior modeling, or maybe they experience the same kind of emotional trauma, or something like that. So they like to find twins, identical twins, who are separated at birth. And what they found was when one of those twins suffered with depression, the other twin, who grew up in a different household, had a 67% chance of being depressed as well. And that's huge, because remember what I said about the World Health Organization. They said 15% of the planet's population is depressed. So this is way huge. So this would imply that there's some sort of genetic marker, there's some sort of genetics involved in some people with depression. However, recently, let me get my paper here, in January 2013, a study was released in Biological Psychiatry, the journal Biological Psychiatry. And it was reported in the magazine Science News. And this is what the headline says. It says, "Depression gene search disappoints." And the first sentence reads, "A massive effort to uncover genes involved in depression has largely failed. By combing through the DNA of 34,549 volunteers, an international team of 86 scientists hoped to uncover genetic influences that affect a person's vulnerability to depression. But the analysis turned up nothing." So that implies that there's no such thing as a straight depression gene. That it implies that your genes are not corrupted or distorted in any way. It does imply, however, but we still got the 67% from the identical twins. So there seems to be some sort of genetic predisposition, maybe. You know, and they're still looking at that. They're still going to go through that. But because of this identical twin studies that they've done, it seems that there may be some sort of genetic predisposition. That doesn't mean you're going to be depressed. It does, however, mean that if you're triggered in some way, you know, sort of like depression, the depression gene loads the gun, but something has to pull the trigger. And they found this in another study, which I believe was written up in the journal Science. And they found this gene, let me look at my notes real quick. It's the 5-HTT gene. And what they found was this gene could lower serotonin output. And serotonin is a neurotransmitter. It's a brain chemical. It has a lot of different functions, and dealing with digestion and your immune system and various things. But it's probably most famous for helping you get into a positive mood, helping you feel happy. And what they found with this 5-HTT gene is that it could lower your brain's ability to create serotonin, but only after you suffered a very stressful event, especially a financial setback. So something had to trigger that gene to start creating a lower serotonin output. So It's possible that there's some predisposition, but something has to come and trigger that effect. Now, before we get into the 4 real causes of depression, I wanted to tell you something that Dr. Daniel Amen said. And Dr. Daniel Amen is a brain researcher, brain scientist, neuroscientist. And he's written many books like Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, and does PBS specials and seminars and workshops. And one of the things he said in a book he wrote called Healing Anxiety and Depression was that being diagnosed with depression is like being diagnosed with chest pain. And what he means by that is when you go to the doctor, you're feeling pain in your chest, and you go to the doctor and your doctor examines you and says, well, you have chest pain. Well, yeah, of course you have chest pain. You know that because you have pain in your chest. That's why you went to the doctor. There's a multitude of reasons why you could be having chest pain. You could be having a heart attack. You have a broken rib. You could have lung cancer. You could have hepatitis. Maybe you ate too much at the Dollar Taco Night at the local bar. Maybe you recently suffered a gunshot wound. There's a lot of reasons why you may have chest pain. That's why you went to the doctor, is to find out why you have chest pain, and for that doctor, him or her, to find ways to fix it. Same with depression. That's not a diagnosis. That's just relating symptoms. And I don't want to go big time into the mind-body connection. I think maybe we've all understand that at this point, that the mind and the body communicate to each other and they're more like one system rather than 2 individual parts. Depression is the mind's way of getting your attention. See, I don't think there's any good emotions or bad emotions. I mean, I believe that there are times when it's appropriate to feel sad. I believe there are times when it's appropriate to feel anger. I definitely feel there's times when it's appropriate to feel stressed. You wake up in the middle of the night and you smell smoke in your house. You know your kids are on the other side of the house. You wake up and you find fire in your house. You want to get stressed. You want that stress response to occur. I certainly feel there's times when grief is appropriate. The problem comes when these emotions become stuck, when they start looping over and over and over again. When depression, when anger, when grief, when stress become normal, when that becomes your emotional set point that you always return to. When these things become the new normal, then that's when you got a problem. Your mind needs to communicate that there's something going on with the body. It may do that by having you feel depression, having you feel anger, having you feel pain, of course, is a really good one. So it's a check engine light, and you don't want to cover up your check engine light with a piece of duct tape. You want to find out what the situation is, fix it, and then move on. And we'll get into antidepressants in a little bit, and I just feel that taking a pill is a really easy way. It's putting a piece of duct tape over the check engine light, and we're not dealing with the problems that are causing your body to alarm you with something like depression or anger. So everything I'm going to say in this video series and these different parts is scientifically based. I'm a real hard up about that. I don't put anything in my books, I don't put anything in my lectures or my seminars that I can't back up with scientific evidence, and it's really important to me. I don't like opinions, and I don't like guesswork, and I don't like, well, maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. When I put something in a book or when I do my presentations, I like to be able to say, yes, I have the evidence to say that this works, and here it is if you want to see it. Here's the Depression 180 book that I wrote, the program, and at the end, this whole section here is all the references I use. And so just so you get an idea that everything I put in the book, everything I put in my lectures and things is scientifically based. So I'm going to end it here for part 1. And in part 2, we're going to start with the first real cause of depression.